My family set a trap to test my fiance before the wedding. It backfired big time. Growing up in my family was like being in a constant comedy skit, where the men were always trying to outdo each other with pranks and challenges. My dad, uncle, and cousin had this weird obsession with testing each other, and it wasn't just a once-in-a-while thing. It was a lifestyle for them. And when I say testing, I don't mean fun little dares. No. These were full-blown, borderline ridiculous challenges designed to see who could handle what. When I introduced my fiancé, Tim, into the mix, I knew they'd have their eyes on him. Tim's a chill guy, super smart, really kind, and definitely not the kind to get into petty competition. But to my dad and the crew, that didn't matter. To them, any guy who was going to marry into the family had to go through their unofficial initiation. At first, I thought it might be okay. You know, harmless stuff like a few questions or maybe a game of chess. Well, they did start small, if you can call 4 back-to-back chess games small. They were testing his patience, I guess, and seeing if he'd get frustrated or bored. Tim, being the sweetheart he is, just went along with it, probably thinking it was some quirky family bonding thing. I mean, he's the kind of guy who wouldn't complain even if he hated every second of it. But things didn't stop at chess. Nope. Not with my family. The next test was more annoying and definitely weird. My cousin suggested slashing one of Tim's car tires to see how he'd handle the situation. It's just a little challenge, they said. Let's see if he can fix it himself or if he calls for help. They didn't actually consult me about this genius idea. They just went ahead and did it. Tim came back from their little hangout one day with a weird look on his face. When I asked what happened, he just smiled and said, "Oh, your cousin helped me change a tire today." It took me a second to realize what he meant. I couldn't believe they actually slashed his tire. And the worst part, Tim didn't even complain. He just dealt with it like the absolute trooper he is. I confronted my dad about it, but he brushed it off. "It's just how we bond," he said, laughing. He passed the test, didn't he? He didn't whine or call for help. I was furious, but also a bit confused. Why was this even a thing? Why did they need to test him like this? To my dad, uncle, and cousin, it was all in good fun. To me, it felt like they were going out of their way to make Tim uncomfortable. As if that wasn't enough, they decided to start asking him the most random and personal questions. What's a joke you'd tell your future mother-in-law? How do you feel about kids? What are your thoughts on Jesus? Yeah. They went there. Tim answered everything politely, probably thinking they were just trying to get to know him better, but I could tell they were looking for reasons to judge him. The worst part was how they kept bringing up his asthma. Tim has a mild condition, nothing too serious, but he does carry an inhaler just in case. To my family though, this was a weakness. They'd tease him, calling him soft or saying he was making excuses whenever he mentioned it. I can't count how many times I told them to stop, but it was like talking to a wall. My dad would just wave me off saying, "It's all part of the game, sweetheart. You're ruining the fun." Then there was the fishing trip. My dad and uncle decided it would be a great idea to see how manly Tim was by testing his fishing and hunting skills. Now Tim isn't a country guy. He grew up in the city, so fishing and hunting aren't exactly his forte. But, again, he went along with it because he wanted to make a good impression. They spent the entire day grilling him, not just about fishing techniques, but also throwing hypothetical scenarios at him. What would you do if you were stranded in the woods? How would you handle a bear attack? Tim did his best to answer, but no matter what he said, they'd find a way to mock him or call him slow. After that trip, I could see Tim was getting worn down. He didn't complain, but I could tell he was exhausted from constantly being under their microscope. I told my dad they needed to chill, but he wasn't having it. "This is what we do," he said. "It's tradition. If he can't handle a little teasing, what kind of husband is he going to be?" I was beyond frustrated. How could they not see the damage they were doing? Tim wasn't just being tested. He was being bullied.